Hi and welcome to the demo about schema compatibility. So in the demo we will use a schema registry to see how to use it and better control our producers and consumers. So as usual I will start by running docker compose. Okay, and just to give you a quick overview of what we have here, we have a Kafka, Apache Kafka broker and schema registry with a control center, which is a kind of UI provided by Confluent, which is behind Apache Kafka, that will simplify us a lot at dealing with schema and schema compatibilities. So that's the control center. You can see that we have an unhealthy cluster, which will soon pass to the healthy state. So we can now create our first topic. So I will create a topic called orders, and I will define a new schema for the value. So this new schema is an Avro schema with ID and order time fields, and it has the backward compatibility mode. And let's see the first case, so the backward incompatible, and you can see that the file, the new file, the schema with new file contains a required field, so the amount. So after running the code with this extra amount field, required field, the producer should fail and explains to us that the schema is not compatible with what we set in the schema registry. And what is the error message? Error message says that registering a new schema is incompatible with the earlier version of the schema. So to fix the issue, we have another code. It still has the amount field, but here the amount field is defined as optional. So it doesn't break the backward compatibility. And I will show you that just by running this code. And yeah, you can see that it succeeded. And moreover, if we refresh the schema, we will see our amount field here and also a new version, schema version created for it. So now I will edit the compatibility mode and set it to forward. And in my next demo, I will use of course, I will start by setting the forward incompatible data. And this data contains a new schema, the schema without the ID field, which is required. So when I run this code against the schema, again, I should get the error message saying that the schema is not compatible with the earlier version. So as a forward compatible evolution, I can add a new required field, which will be the customer ID. And again, we can see a new version. So do we have the customer ID here? Yes. And do we have a new version? Indeed. So the version number 2 has the optional amount, and the version number 3 has the required customer ID. So it's time now for the second part of the demo. In the second part of the demo, we will see how the schema registry can help the long-running consumers, so the long-running streaming applications, to obviously to keep them running long time without breaking the schema. So here I have a sample consumer that will process the orders topic with the most recent schema, and I will run the code right now. You can see we have some old orders, that were produced by this compatibilities codes that worked. And now I will start the producer. So the producer uses the schema without the customer ID code added previously. And we should see some of the records just here. And now we will do a different operation. So we will use an incompatible schema. But before, we have to change the schema compatibility here to none, because my goal is to show you what happens when we don't use this schema compatibility feature at all, in the context of long-running streaming applications, of course. So we have our non-compatibility mode, and here we have yes, we remove the ID field, and typically the producer worked. However, our consumer was in trouble because the consumer couldn't get the ID because it was a required field, and the consumer assumed that with the previous compatibility mode, the ID field will be always there. So as you saw, uh, broke, we broke, but we broke it just for the demo purpose, because it's not always a good idea to relax the compatibility mode so drastically. So that I could show you here very clearly that for long-running applications, such like streaming applications, dealing with the lack of with the schemas, but without this compatibility mode, is tricky and very risky, because as you can see here, we couldn't process the data and our job simply stopped. So in order to fix it, we should maybe add some try-catch blocks or another constructs that will make our code much heavier to not fail in case of any attribute removal. And that's all for this lesson. You saw here two different scenarios. So the scenarios breaking and not breaking backward compatibility, scenarios breaking and no breaking forward compatibility, and in another scenario uh, showing how the lack of compatibility mode impacts the long-running consumers, so typically here with the attribute that was removed. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next lesson.